Hi, Tyler. It's so great to see you.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. I'd love for us to, before we dive into the details on Street Smart and the progress that you're making, it'd be great to hear a little bit about you, give an introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Tyler Hicks. I'm a resident of Capitol Heights in Mid-City Baton Rouge. I've lived here close to 15 years. Um, and I'm the founder of Snakebite Consulting, which I've founded to work on projects just like this. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity and reached out to CPEX and Camille a couple of months ago to, I guess, really to let y'all know that this project that y'all initiated almost a decade ago that we were making some real progress on, and y'all were so gracious enough to offer your help, and here we are today.
Yes, yes. This is, in the planning world, it often takes a long time to get things implemented. And so, given that, I've been in this world long enough that I don't get discouraged because I know we can eventually get there, especially if we have a plan. And so it really does rely on the leadership of local residents and business owners to make those plans a reality. So I'd like to just kick off with backing up a minute to discuss the purpose and reason for the Street Smart initiative that we conducted in 2014. When we conducted the Better Block Government Street in 2013, the resounding pushback or concern we heard from residents, because there was so much support for the transformation of Government Street to become this pedestrian corridor and area where local residents could walk to and get to and in a safe way that could be this place that it wasn't before. And there were no coffee shops on Government Street until we were able to do this road diet and get a lot of businesses and the types of businesses to flock there. Um, we heard that there was concern about cut through traffic. We learned about the drainage issues in the surrounding neighborhoods. We learned about the disconnected pedestrian, bike, and ped infrastructure that existed within the surrounding neighborhoods. And really, it was the Capitol Heights neighborhood that, in the strength of your civic association, that told us, okay, we've got partners here. We went to you all. We went to Bernard Terrace, Valley Park, Webb Park, neighborhood associations to say, hey, do you all want to partner with us? We will we'll do the facilitation, we'll put together the plan, we'll do these demonstrations, but this has to be resident driven. This has to be community driven, because part of the Center for Planning Excellence's work is to set the table, meet people where they are, and listen and devise plans where people see themselves and their input in it. That's how you build the champions for the work. That's how plans get implemented. And so there was so much enthusiasm, activity, and interest from you, Tyler, your civic association, and all the others that we were able to do this work. So we did 13 temporary demonstrations across the 4 neighborhoods, all addressing these main concerns, and got feedback from residents on what they liked and what they didn't like. That then led to the development of the plan. And I really encourage everyone to look at that plan, because it's, I think, such a unique plan, as it looks at every single street in the neighborhoods and makes recommendations on each street, even with the measurements included on what needs to happen. And so that is the context for why CPEX got involved, why CPEX wanted to do this effort. And so now with that, you and in partnership with the Capitol Heights Civic Association are getting some of those items, recommendations implemented. And so I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the Capitol Heights portion in particular, and what you guys are getting implemented, and what we need to focus on next. How can we also help in the next getting the next parts implemented?
Yeah, no, thank you. I wanted to take a moment to, I guess, share how my personal story uh, mirrors exactly what you just explained. Back in 2013, 2014, when this was happening, I'd lived in the neighborhood for 6 years and didn't consider myself engaged at all. Not engaged with the neighborhood association, not engaged with, I knew things were happening with Government Street, but, I just didn't feel like it was anything that I had a part in. And I think after y'all did the Better Block with Government Street, that was just such a massive success as far as just really capturing the imagination of everybody that lived on Government Street, that like things were happening and things were changing, and we could play a part in it. And I think soon thereafter, I happened to join the association, and how it goes, you immediately get on the board, then all of a sudden you're president, because they're looking for help. And it wasn't too far after that CPEX announced that you were going to have a facilitation in the neighborhood to really get that uh, input from the neighbors of, where the pain points were, what they liked, like you said, what they didn't like. And we showed up at the Ingleside, I guess, multi-use room, and it was full of the neighbors. Like everybody wanted to take part, and it was fun. We were putting the dots on the maps, and really talking through, what we loved. And we met, neighbors that we never met before, and there were, civic leaders there, our representatives and council people were there, and we got to make those connections. And through that, I was able to, help with other types of committees. But that process really opened my eyes as to, how I could play a part. And, it was fun. And so once the Street Smart plan came out, we quickly, it's I think a 100-page plan. We went through it as the Civic Association and pulled out all the Capitol Heights pieces and put it together, and immediately brought that to our councilman at the time and told him, like, these were our priorities. And he was blown away that, a group, a civic association actually showed up with a physical plan, which felt very real. And he knew who CPEX was. And he got to work, and we I know one piece that I'm excited about, because it felt like at the time that it wouldn't happen, but the plan called for a sidewalk on clay cut by the golf course. And the demonstration, showed the cow path of, muddy footprints of people using that area, and that we needed a sidewalk. And sure enough, it got put into one of the future budgets, and we got our sidewalk years later. And those little things help keep me positive that things can happen, because I've seen it happen. We talk a lot in Baton Rouge that all we do is make plans, we never do anything with it. Well, we can see these little incremental implementations where things are getting better. And so I like to think back onto that whenever here we are 10 years into it and still working on it, that like you said, these things take time. But having a champion, making sure to focus on, not trying to get everything in the plan done at the same time, but what's the priorities. And these two crosswalks in the neighborhood have just continued to be a priority, even through COVID, when there was a lot of disengagement of coming together and really I guess having the energy to work on a project like this. Capitol Heights is known for being an optimal place for walkers and bikers, and it's a important connector for different parts of the city. And these two pain points where we're working on these crosswalks just keep coming up. Like, we've got to fix this. We've got to do something about it. And so all these years later, we're still seeing the enthusiasm to get it done.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I'm so grateful for your leadership and all those working with you on this. I'd like to talk about some of the particular projects because these are not just, oh, let's beautify things. This is about safety and saving lives. And using in our streets belonging to people in a safe way for other uses versus the automobile. And two critical areas in that planning effort for safety reasons were the beacon light to get over Foster, and then a landing pad and safety protections for Jefferson to get it across Jefferson. And so can you talk a little bit about those two particular projects and recommendations, especially the one that you're getting implemented in partnership with the city?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if I can do a screen share, I can actually show some pictures of the intersections themselves. See if I can tee that up quickly. All right, well, here's some visual representations of the intersections we're talking about. So there's a little map here to kind of show. So here's our neighborhood here, Capitol Heights, and these yellow dots are where these crosswalks are that we're addressing. You can see in this green line from Google where it knows that this is an important bike path, and you can see how it's close to the Government Street bike path and then down in Glenmore. But then you can see these dots that are also, I think, pedestrian walkways. And but you can see down here, I thought it was interesting that Google is actually showing that people, even though the businesses right here, the coffee shops, you can see a brouhaha, and there's some restaurants, Google saying, don't walk that way, you know, come down here, use the crosswalk there. So it's just a little bit of data to kind of show what's happening right now. So here's some pictures of the intersections. This is Jefferson at the end of the neighborhood. You know, as you can see, it's a pretty big strode where we got businesses over here, places that people want to walk and ride to in the neighborhoods on our left. But you got 4 lanes of traffic and almost no in here. So it's very, very prohibitive for somebody who lives in the neighborhood to, one, be able to cross to these businesses, but 2, behind these is, you know, another mile of neighborhoods, our big, beautiful library where there's things going on all the time, and soccer fields and just places that people want to get to. But this is a barrier, and you can see just a bit, looking the other direction, that there's a hard curve where you just can't see the cars coming around here. And this place in particular, my wife and I, back in 2015, we actually totaled a vehicle because we were pulling out of this coffee shop and somebody came flying around this corner here. We never even saw them. I felt like that's just another personal reference. You know, what happens in an area like this where there's just no infrastructure for getting across the street. In South Foster, it's in the middle of the neighborhood, very similar. You see the cars, see the 4 lanes of traffic, just absolutely no infrastructure for helping to cross. And this intersection is actually the one that gets brought up the most because it's smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood. Residents who live on the east side just constantly complain that they just don't feel comfortable getting to any of the events like Be Nice and all the restaurants that are on Government Street. They don't feel comfortable crossing the street. And so this one is brought up a lot, even though this one's really important as well. So we're working on both of them here to hopefully implement an enhanced crosswalk that includes some type of signal light. But yeah, I hope that kind of shows where we're talking about. And I've got a visual representation here of elsewhere in the city. This is on Stanford Avenue where what's called a hawk beacon has been installed. You've got a a neighborhood park to your right, you've got a condominium to your left. And so this works as, a typical crosswalk might work, but because there's no intersection here, there weren't previously any type of signalization. So this really is just to create safety for pedestrians and bicyclists to cross. And something like this is what we're looking for at these two intersections to help increase the safe use of the intersection and create that connectivity that we're missing right now.
Yeah. And thank you. It's helpful to provide this overview and understand where your neighborhood sees its priorities. And so, can we talk about the process of getting it implemented? I'd love to highlight that. What has that partnership been like? And these aren't everything in the built environment and the outcomes of our social behaviors around that environment are a product of the design. And so our traffic congestion, safety issues, it all gets down to the design. And so how has it been to be able to broach the city with these design recommendations?
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned how this plan was a product of a previous plan, the Government Street overlay, or sorry, it wasn't the overlay, but the Government Street road diet. And I feel like these next bits of it are just kind of continuing on with that process. But even going back farther, I believe it was 2010 when the neighborhood lobbied the city to turn Capitol Heights Avenue, which is the exact streets we're talking about, to a one-way street to cut down on how much traffic was coming through the neighborhood, trying to get around Government Street because all the wrecks that were happening on Government Street. And they successfully did that, even though at the time there was some dissent. There was a little bit of controversy on getting it done, but I think it passed by a 60% margin and it got done. And it turned out to be this beautiful asset to the neighborhood, which all of a sudden spurred all the walking and biking through the neighborhood. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, let's do something on Government Street to slow down the traffic and make it more appealing for businesses to locate there and people to feel comfortable walking and biking on Government Street. And that was done. And so then, okay, well, we need to address the interior of the neighborhood. And so Street Smart came about. And so that I think is where the neighborhood really picked up from there. And so from that first meeting with our council person, that was Councilman Lamont Cole, who's still our council person. He was very receptive to the plan and all the parts of the plan. And, his only trepidations was, at this point, there's no funding for it. These hawk beacons are expensive, $100,000 a piece. We're going to have to figure that out. But let's work on what we can. And so, we've got the sidewalk and we've got, extra stop signs put in the neighborhood to help slow down the traffic. And we've got some, smaller crossings implemented in other places. But, it was always the cost was the biggest barrier. Even whenever we talk to DPW, there's a lot of support. Hey, this makes sense. We know this is what residents are looking for. This isn't just your neighborhood. This is a movement, around the country to have these complete streets. But we've got to find the funding. And other neighborhoods are asking for things as well. And so we could lament that it's taken 10 years to get here, but some important things have happened in the meantime. One, it was kind of a no issue, or sorry, a no, conversation starter to do this on Jefferson Highway, because at that point it was owned by the state. And there seemed to be an impression that the state was very uninterested in on what was considered a state highway to slow traffic. So we can't even talk about that. So let's talk about Foster. Well, in the meantime, the state has moved ownership of Jefferson Highway over to the city, where now people that are closer to the project, closer to what neighbors are looking for, they're saying, yeah, no hold up. Like if we can find the funds, like let's do it. And also in that meantime, the neighbors were very interested in addressing the perception of crime in the area. And so the neighborhood association founded a special district called the Capitol Heights Crime Prevention and Improvement District back in 2015, 2016. And as part of that, we were able to successfully pass a ballot measure to put a fee on the parcels in the neighborhood. And so that then generated funds that over the years we've been able to budget enough funds where we can help fund this very project. So had we made this push, even 6 years ago, the funding still wasn't there. There was a policy issue with Jefferson Highway to get this done. Over time, those barriers have dropped, and now's the opportunity to get this moving, which is kind of in dovetailing with post-COVID. Everybody's getting re-engaged. They've used the facilities. They've gotten out, and there's biking and walking and running is at an all-time high. And they're really interested. The neighbors are really interested in addressing this. So this feels like the right time to get something that seemed impossible done, because this really is, I think, probably one of the most expensive implementations in the plan, and it's the very one that we think we can get done.
Yeah. And
so
it can save lives. I mean, that is
absolutely.
Those two intersections and the placement of the lights on each side and the speeds at which people are going. It is absolutely critical that these safety measures are put in place. So I'm just so grateful to you and your leadership for keeping this torch lit and moving, and even through the time frame, because a lot of people get discouraged when things don't happen immediately, but you've kept it moving, and so and that's what it takes to make it happen. And so bravo.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I want to give credit where it's due too. I'm a firm believer in the power of a plan and a physical plan. And after all these years, to have the street smart plan, we had printed it out, and it might have gotten dusty on a shelf, for a couple of years, but it was always there. It was always, hey, this is waiting to be used. And so I think that's an important piece, that as we were getting going again, I might have been the one that had the plan that was getting dusty, but that helped me remember it whenever somebody else kind of asked about that. It's like, oh wait, remember we've actually got a plan for this that tells us we do need this. This isn't just our opinion. We've had a best in class organization already do the work, put the recommendations together. We just need to follow it. And so having that street smart plan to fall back to, that's been a really important asset to help, I guess, keep the process going, because there was this physical thing just calling to us saying, don't forget about me. We don't need another plan. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, what about that thing that we had? So a huge amount of gratitude to CPEX for doing that work. And anybody that's watching this video, I can't tell you enough how many times being able to go to a stakeholder, going to somebody like your councilman, and having that physical plan, it carries a lot of weight. It's so important. And so it takes work, it takes time, and hopefully in your community, you've got a CPEX that can help you with these things, but it doesn't have to be fancy. However you can get it written down, of what you want and why, it's really powerful. And so to have such a nice plan like the Street Smart plan is why we're actually getting these things done.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It's just wonderful to know that too. And you know, I've always understood that it gets picked up sometime. So even sometimes when they sit on shelves for a little while, they maybe the timing wasn't right.
Absolutely.
And things didn't fall into place on some area, and you know, some areas or aspects or components of that plan, but it is there, and it's never too old to pick up and get moving. So we've been able to watch, you know, through working with 75 communities across the state on plans. Um, some get implemented right away when you've got a mayor or a champion that has the decision-making authority to be able to move resources. And, you know, like I think about Gina, Louisiana, where we did a plan, very detailed design plan in the downtown and Main Street and existing area. And 80% of that plan got implemented, you know, within the first 3 years. And then other plans that we've worked on, it's like this. Sometimes it takes 10 years to get something done. But that momentum of getting that one thing done can lead to the next thing, and then the next thing. And so eventually we'll get to a place where we've got everything done, and then you've got other aspirations. And so that's when we need to revisit and say, okay, where are we? What else needs to happen? This, you know, this is where we're going. And when you do robust public engagement and build the champions, that's, you know, gets to the power of planning. You've got more people carrying the torch and wanting to move things forward. But now you've successfully worked with the city parish on two different projects to get implemented in the area, and the sky's the limit, right? Now you know that full process of making something happen. Well, Tyler, could you share with us and the viewers where you guys are now and what's next? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, going back to your comments of, you know, you've got to just take that next step. And that's exactly, you know, what happened in the first part of this year is after a couple of years of being dormant, the neighborhood association had a small meeting and it was like 6 people there. And somebody brought up like, hey, you know, the special district has been budgeting for these projects, but we're just not getting anywhere. What do we need to do? And it's like, well, I know we need more buy-in. We're not going to get this big project done with 3 people advocating for it. Let's call a bigger meeting. And so we called a meeting for in a couple of months, and we put door hangers on every door to make sure everybody knew about it. And lo and behold, we had a huge turnout of neighbors. And one of our neighbors, turns out, works in the mayor's office, and she heard what we were talking about and was like, I think we'd really like to help you on this. So it was great. So we are able to set up a meeting there, and that kind of put us in front of the Department of Transportation. And so it's just taking that next step of, well, let's just get together, let's talk about it. You never know who's going to show up. You never know who's got an idea, can say like, oh, that old barrier is gone now.
Yeah.
Did you know? It might be that you didn't know. So through all that, we've gotten a lot of support from stakeholders and city parish government. And the next part of it is seeing if we can add these projects to the Move BR plan that's going on now. We're a little late in the game, but we're being told that there's some opportunity there to tap in some of these funds that are supposed to be dedicated towards projects like this. And so we're lobbying our councilman to kind of to be an advocate himself for using those Move BR funds. The special district is going to vote in the next 2 weeks to hire an engineering firm. So they're vetting that now. So we're really taking those big important next steps forward. And I think very shortly it's going to be time to really push the neighbors to reach directly out to the Metro Council, reach out to all the governmental stakeholders that this is important to them, and engage more than we're doing now. So we still might be a ways off. We still might be a year off, 2 years. We don't know, but we're taking that next step forward and knowing that, well, we just got to have the next meeting. We need to do that next traffic count, when school lets back in. Just take those next steps and not get overwhelmed. That takes a long time to get these things funded and installed. But I'm very pleased with where we are now. And it feels good to be moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tyler. I am very excited to be able to ride my bike with my family down Capitol Heights and across those two in the future, hopefully safe cross streets. So we are all, I think everybody in the city, not just Capitol Heights residents, will be grateful for your efforts and leadership on this. It takes believing, it takes the tenacity, the persistence, and the leadership, and we are all grateful to you and your team working with you on this. So
yeah, thank you to CPEX.
Yes, so much great things, so many great things for Capitol Heights in the future.